One of the key things in garden design is adding an element of interest outside of just plants, putting in a garden feature. Now it could be gazebos or garden buildings, it could be statues or sundials. But you should really consider adding water into your garden because it gives you that element of fluid movement and of course the acoustic sound that is so very, very tranquil. Now these Oase copper bowls are really adding something special to this corner here. There's lights inside, so it's great during the day and the night. And with a little bit of horticultural embellishment, it really creates something special. Here's how we added these into this spot. Choosing the right position for your water feature should be a pleasurable experience. It's all about finding the right spot that you can enjoy it the most. So, look at your patio, sit down in it and take a view where you'd like to put it. Also walk around the garden, look at it from inside the house as well. It might be where you spend quite a bit of time in the kitchen or the dining room or even the lounge, and choose the windows that cast a view out, and then you can choose the right feature spot. Now I've chosen a spot here at this location that's in a corner. So it is seen almost 90 degrees across from the car park area through to the lounge and their kitchen as well. And once you've chosen your spot, well, that's where the hard work starts. Now I've got a really big hole here because I need to hold quite a bit of water in the reservoir, and the principle's the same. A small water feature the size of a bucket, you need to make sure that the bucket is big enough or holds enough water to be able to cycle it around. And of course there's another thing called splash radius, and this is really when you've got a water feature and the water falls back in, sometimes it splashes. Now if it splashes outside of the reservoir and is not collecting the water to go back in, not only does it flood the area around the outside, but of course eventually it will drain and empty the water feature completely. And the last thing you want to do is to have your pump just sucking air, because that's no good for the pump at all. So by creating a hole that's big enough for all the water that splashes out to be recollected and worked through, it's a really good principle. And also some water features, when you turn them off, don't hold the water in their sections. It all just drains back into the sump, and if the sump isn't big enough, of course that spills over the side. So making sure you've got a good space to be able to hold all the water you need to go up through your water feature and fall back in and collect it is really good. Now this area here has taken quite a bit of digging to get to this stage, and then I'm levelling off a bit of a base to try and get that as level as I possibly can. And the next stage is to put in the underlay and the liner. Now we've lined our hole and taken a great deal of care whenever you're putting down liner. Always check on the inside that there isn't any sharp objects, stones, debris, glass or anything like that. And never walk on the liner itself with your boots. Best to do it just in your socks, because protecting the liner is essential. Now we've also put a bit of underlay fleece just at the base there to protect the liner, and there was a little bit of liner spare, so I've put that just along the bottom as well. It's always cushioning because there's quite a lot of weight goes onto the liner. It's not just the water, of course, it's the water feature as well. And that comes to a point, we've got this giant hole. We now need to put something underneath as a pedestal or a foundation to sit our water feature on, but we still want water still to be able to move in and around the hole, and that's where these Oase Maxima blocks come in. They're all holes all the way around, as you can see in the pattern, to enable that movement of water, but together they're incredibly sturdy. It takes almost a ton in weight. In fact, you could drive your car right over it, so that's going to be perfect to sit our water feature. But there's another bit of kit we're using as well, which you're going to find to be incredibly helpful. It is in fact a pump chamber. So you know when you put your pump in your pond or your water feature and something goes wrong and you need to clean it, you're in there fishing around trying to find it or whatever. This puts the pump in a place that you know exactly where to go, and it's almost like a manhole. You can take the top off and access your pump and do all your maintenance that you need. It sucks the water up through these slats at the side. Either side there's hose point. It just tidies everything up into one area. So it doesn't only help the smooth running of the water feature itself, it also helps you maintain it as well. Now everything is set and ready to almost blend into the ground around. We've backfilled slightly here, and we've also put the housing for the pump in. Now the pump that we're using is a really nice bit of kit. It is in fact the Oasi Aquarius Universal. Now this is the premium one, particularly designed more for water features than ponds for a couple of reasons. One, there's that extra bit of power and pressure within this pump that feeds the water features really well. And secondly, there's much more of a finer grid around the outside of the filter because we don't want massive clumps getting into the water feature itself. It's got a really clever bit of kit just at the end to be able to regulate the flow, but actually we're going to do something a little bit better than that. Now this is an Oasi YBD. It is in fact a splitter because we're going to put a hose onto the pump and then out and feed each of the two bowls separately. Now here's the clever bit. We can control the flow on each of the two feeds because the bigger bowl we might lead a little bit more and the smaller bowl maybe a bit less. And this type of flexibility by adding components like this makes the job of setting your water feature to become almost perfect. Now I'm just getting the copper bowl ready and take a look. Isn't it beautiful? I love this colour. I've even got the gloves. Of course, I want to handle it right. I don't want to leave any tarnishes. But the inside of the bowl itself will always remain copper because it's submerged under the water. But the outer side of the bowl is where you really get the character of this water feature because it oxidizes and starts to go verdigris. And that lovely colour really sets off. Now something very special we're going to do with this one. We're using the Oasi LED ring, which is a very high quality bright LED light that we just nestle right at the base. And that's perfect because it will capture the momentum of the water and really make it sparkle. So this water feature isn't just during the day, it's also spectacular at night as well. Now I'm still filling up the sump, but as you can see here the bowls are in position and with the sun on them, doesn't it look beautiful? And of course with the lights, it's also going to dance off the movement of the water at night as well. So just to recap, we've dug the hole, we've put a little bit of underlay, and then we put the liner on top. We use the Oasi Maxima blocks into position, which are solid enough to take the weight of the containers and of course the water as well. Now we have used another clever bit of kit. This is the Oasi Eco Rise, and it's brilliant just for settling the container onto the surface of the Maxima blocks. It bevels in quite nicely in the centre and it gives an even space of weight and it enables you to be able to level it absolutely perfect so the water's falling evenly all the way around the edge. But the other thing that's really good is feeding the pipe straight in through this little indentation here. Look at that. Goes right into the centre. There's no messing about trying to get it underneath. It just sits quite nicely in these indentations. Likewise, the cabling for the lights in the middle. It's all about making sure that the bowl sits right and it's easy and comfortable to access and feed in the different pipes. So, there are 4 different movements of water. There is a tube in the centre of the upper bowl, which is bubbling up, and likewise the second tube in the lower bowl, which is not spurting out, but giving a bubble in the centre and rippling the water out so you can see it dance in the light. Then the upper bowl, of course, is feeding the lower bowl, and the combination of the feed from the upper bowl and the bubbling up in the middle is creating an even flow of water which is cascading down the sides. And this movement of water helps in a couple of ways. Firstly, visually, you get this lovely fluid water movement that dances in the sunlight, but of course also gets highlighted at night as well. And then of course as the water is going from one bowl into the other and then back into the sump, you get this lovely sound of tranquil water. All we've got to do now is finish off the base. Well, there you have it, our water features in position. It's not as difficult job as you might think, and with the right equipment, it makes it great to set in, but also to maintain as well. I'm just going to leave these on here. Obviously turn the lights on and off at night, but other than that, they just add, it's the sound, it's the sight, and with some horticultural embellishment around the outside, it turns a dull corner into a major garden feature that can be enjoyed if you're sitting out in the garden or even looking out from the windows. The real advantage of adding water into the garden is it really embellishes the sensory experience being outside. The sight of the water trickling and moving gives an element of animation, and of course the sound of the water is so very tranquil. If you've not thought about it before, add some water into your garden. You won't regret it. For more information, just visit the website oasi.com.